Recording in progress. Uh, this is Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. I'm with Elliot Thomas, and in parenthesis, L. Ebak, uh, your rapping name, correct? Uh,
Rapper slash
yeah,
poetry.
right, poet. So, Ellie and I have a bit of a history. Oh, chronologically, we're very close to Christmas. This, of course, this will pop up probably in early January because, it's Christmas and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all these good things. As I mentioned, Elliot, everybody's busy with Christmas and New Year stuff, so we'll get this up in early January. But it's pretty close to Christmas. It snowed. There's some snow outside the window, which is kind of nice. It even makes for a better holiday. But Ellie and I met through the magic of the universe, which is one of our favorite words, the universe. And we met LinkedIn, and I had interviewed Elliot 6, 7 months ago as a rapper, as a poet, uh, um, a nutritionist. I mean, just a whole bunch of different things, and every one of the things he is doing was so fascinating to me, and that's why we did that first interview, and now we're back because Elliot has published his second book of poetry. Don't judge a book by its cover, and this is the cover of the poetry book, which I've now read twice, and I have to pull it up here on my magic Kindle, because that's where um, here it is. I'm looking. Oh, okay. So just to show everybody, I have it on my Kindle. We're gonna talk about that because and I've got all my notes on the. I've read it twice. There's some of the poetry. Ellie and I share a lot of deep feelings about things. We're going to talk about that. But I'm done with my monologue. Elliot, how about a little bit of your bio from time you were born in North Carolina to New York, and some of the music that has, the Marvin Gaye and the Sade, and so yeah, I mean, you have so many layers. It's so interesting, and you're a young guy. So a little bit of a bio, and then I'll ask you a couple of basic questions, and you do model. I mean, there's so many layers to unpack, and then we really I want to spend some time and don't judge a book by its cover. So take it away, a little history of Elliot Thomas.
Yes, for sure. Thank you first and foremost for that brief introduction. I'm Elliot Thomas, also known as Ebak. I started off as a rap artist. I do modeling, I do acting. I'm very big into health and wellness. I was born in North Carolina. 3 weeks later, I moved to the Bronx, New York. My grandmother, she dropped me off with my great grandmother, which is also like a mother to me. God rest her soul. Yeah, so I always wanted to be into the arts since I was young and being very creative. I think it started in elementary school with arts and craft. It always grabbed my attention compared to the other classes that I was in, like the basic subjects like math, English. But I always loved something about arts and crafts and writing. It's always been a gift for me from the higher being above. And when I was 16 years old, I was in history class. I will never forget this. And I remember we had to learn about the word Renaissance man. And when that definition was broke down by my history teacher named Miss Gerke, who I still have on Facebook, shout outs to her and her beautiful family. When we broke down that definition, a man with variety of skills or a human being with variety of skills, and the examples that was used like Michael Jordan, Jay-Z, and all of these other um, amazing people that was very gifted and talented in different areas. I wanted to commit myself and be dedicated to establishing myself in that area. And that was a goal of mine, still is a goal of mine, because there's always room for improvement, and you're never fully established until I feel like your last dying days, because there's always ways to be creative, always ways to improve, to be a Renaissance man or woman, Renaissance woman, in that um, regards. So that's my main goal, is to become an established Renaissance man and to inspire people with my words, knowledge, and experiences throughout my journey of life.
Wow. And you certainly, from what I read, there's some, we're going to talk about this. We'll go through, but it is inspiring, and some of the things you talk about and you write about, some of your deep feelings, some of my deep feelings. You know, and you talked about water, and I talked about the ocean and the bottom of the ocean, and I mean, so we'll get to that. I'm very exuberant. Well, I am about what I've read, and we'll get to that. Um, One of the things about your background is your pursuit of health and nutrition and supplements, and you want to just say a couple words about that, because I've been taking supplements now for a long time, since 1969, and I swear on taking supplements, because I'm functioning at a high level, approaching 80, you
So
know.
God bless. God
Yeah.
bless. Yes.
So this thing up here works really well, and I attribute some of that to, diet and supplements. So if you want to just say a couple of words about, your pursuit of nutrition.
Yes, for sure. So overall, it's health and wellness. So I've always been into health and wellness since I was 21 years old, when I first started working in the corporate world for a Muay Thai gym called Koban's Muay Thai Gym here in New York City, in Midtown Manhattan, which is now permanently closed due to the pandemic shutdown. Um, yeah, so once I started working for health and wellness companies, that's when I really started taking my health very seriously. And knowing that I still had time and it was still early on in my 20s, that I was able to turn around, because in my teens, being on my own, I was just eating anything to survive, like cheap foods from McDonald's, Burger King's, Denny's, Wendy's, etc. Things that was affordable in order to make it through the day. So I got into that at the Koban's Muay Thai gym. That's when I started dabbling into it a little bit. And then it wasn't until the next year I started working for this infrared sauna spa called Higher Dose.
Mhm.
And that's when I would be inside of the infrared sauna 5 times a week because we got to use it for free. I still go into the sauna to this day, not that one, but I still going inside of an infrared sauna at least once a month or twice a month, but I need to get back into it more often. And then I start learning about herbal medicine, because I start working for an herbal medicine company called The Alchemist Kitchen. So it seems like God just aligned me into health and wellness. But since a kid, I always been an athlete, right? So I think that goes hand in hand. So once I start learning about like herbal medicine and start drinking these teas, I start seeing a big difference into my health, and how I was still basically running, exercising compared to a lot of people in my age bracket um, as millennials. And I just loved it. I just start seeing the changes. I stopped drinking. I start increasing better habits,
Mhm.
and get rid of both the bad habits. And I've seen a significant differences. So I just wanted to keep that going. And I had an herbal medicine company in 2020. Well, started at the end of 2019 into 2020, called Urban Healers. Um, I don't have that right now, but I do plan to get back into it. But that doesn't stop me personally from taking herbal
Right.
supplements, and legit ones. I think people have to be careful about that too, to make sure that the source is legit, because there's a lot of things that's out there right now that says is healthy for you,
Hmm.
but all in reality it's the opposite. So I would just tell people to like be careful with that. And if you want recommendations from me about like certain herbal teas, herbal supplements to take, I'll be willing to share that as well. So I just tell people it's best to stay into health and wellness and to stay fit as possible, because I know we get sidetracked or strayed away from that due to real life situations, usually financial situations. So we work out less or exercise less, but people don't understand that's for your mind, body, and soul. Like that will keep you here longer. And of course, there are some things that's out of our control, but what we do have in our control is our health.
Right.
So if we do that to the best of our ability, then we'll be able to move along, better. I feel like.
And what you're saying, Elliot, I live it, and I've been conscious of the pursuit of health since 1969. It's a long time. So what you're saying, the words that you're saying, and you're young, and I'm on the other side of the age thing. You and I are, a half century apart.
Mhm.
Um, Could you believe that?
I know. Hey,
Hey, what am I
where,
saying?
yeah, where at,
What am I
man?
saying? I got to slap myself. A half century apart. But the bottom line is we're on the same level. You're young and I'm old. But I attribute a lot of this to what you just said. Uh,
Right. Your mind is a temple.
yep. And I've always believed that. I absolutely believe that this is so critical and so important. So you've got to do everything imaginable to keep this working and functioning. I actually think I'm better now at 79 than I've ever been, because this functions really well. And it functions really well because the blood going up here is not impeded by cholesterol or plaque. I have none. I have zero coronary artery plaque. And why? Because nutrition, what you just said. And the other thing that makes me sharp is that if you can have this working, you can have this working very efficiently, and then you have 79 years worth of learned experiences. You put the two of them together, and you could be pretty effective. So but anyway, I wanted to bring this up because it's really important, and you're in the middle of that, and you're also at this great point in your life of such creativity. And I think and I'm also going to tell everybody as I put this together, I'll have the link to our past interview where you talk a little bit more about, your music. But right now, it's important to talk about your words and your poetry, and that's what we're going to do. So, um, don't judge a book by its cover. And this is that's the cover. And again, it's on. Um, I have my new iPad here, and I'm just going to load it up. So here again. So. Um, you're so diverse. There's so many different things we can talk about: health and wellness, sports, therapy, entertainment. So this is your second poetry book.
Yes, correct.
Okay. What's different about this book than your first poetry book?
Good
First of
question.
all,
Um, I would say this one, I took my time with it. I took more time with the lines, how I wanted one to go with the other line. I've experienced more. I'm a little bit older. especially now that I'm approaching 30 in under 2 months. So my perspective on life became deeper. I started working back into the corporate world, which I've been removed from for a few years. So I started seeing more that I didn't see before. And my intelligence on putting pieces of words together is more profound. And my experiences of me tucking away my feelings, not being able to vent, helped me to flow with the rhythm better. Uh, yeah, so that's basically about it, and that's why the cover, "Don't judge a book by its cover," it's kind of self-explanatory. Is because there's been times that I showed up at work or I show up places or when I'm walking in public where um, I have the rest in be face, and I can see how people is looking at me in one way without realizing who I really am if they had a conversation with me or what I've been going through but haven't, expressed that verbally in public, or I just tucked it away, put a shield in front of it. Right. So that's why even with this cover, it's a picture of me when I was a kid. Not, and I'm not far away from the same school where I did this photo shoot at. This is the uniform we was wearing, and it's ironic because it was shot inside of a library.
Oh, wow.
It
That's
was
funny.
shot inside of a library. So I definitely want to put that title on it because people would see a picture of me um, and they'd be like, "Oh wow, okay, this guy always had that same smile. I never knew he had, pictures of him when he was a baby or when he was a kid that was so photogenic." Uh, and it explains that, hey, don't judge me because of the stereotypes of America. Um, there are good and bad people from all ethnicities and all ethnic groups. Like just because you see one ignorant inner city black kid doesn't mean that the next is the same. So there are good and bad, just like good and evil everywhere. Don't just categorize one person in the whole entire group of a stigma.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I read, just to back up what you just said, uh, you talk about in your synopsis here, and I take my notes. I'm such a great note taker. I was a great note taker. So, but the realities of capitalism and dealing about what you just said, and that's where the title, in part, comes from. Why judge a book by its cover? Don't judge a book by its cover. Systemic oppression of inner city, black youth, adults. I mean, it's part of our world. It's been part of our world. Um, so, um, where's this energy, this inspiration come from to continue to write? I mean, it's a hard thing to do. You're a writer, I'm a writer. There's nothing lonelier in the world, I think. And you kind of do your stuff at midnight. We'll talk about that. That's one of your poems.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that. And it's funny, I do my writing, honestly, I do my writing between 12 and 4 in the morning,
Mhm.
and we'll talk about that. But where does the inspiration come from to do this?
Uh, Number one, the higher power. That's the first the ultimate, right? And to keep flowing. And I think as writers, yeah, we all stumble across writer's block, right? But then it comes a period in time that we experience something where we feel like this is the only way I could get this out, right? Yes, I might be suffering to get this out verbally, or think that people won't care, or people will, it would just go in one ear and go out the other if I try to express this verbally. So I believe that writing is one of my main forms of therapy, right? Even if I try to remove myself from it, I tend to always get pulled back into it. So that's what helps me continue to keep going into writing and just expressing myself because I don't have no support system. Or if there is a support system out there that says they do support me, I haven't felt it verbally. So for me, it's writing that always, help me get those things out, the dark stuff, the light stuff, but most importantly, the dark stuff, just so I can feel release and relieve, that stress. So that's what continues. That's what helps me continue.
Okay. Okay. Uh, and I'm thinking about this. And we're two writers here. It is one of the more difficult things in the world to sit and just to sit and put yourself and to write. It's lonely and it's hard, and the only one that you have is yourself. We'll talk
Yes.
about that. You said something very profound. We'll talk about that. Um, so um, don't judge a book by its cover. We're gonna dissect this and talk about this, but uh, quickly, what would be three things you would like people to take away from this book? Don't judge. Just and then we're going to jump into this. So, what are three things that people could take away from this?
Number one, don't judge a book by its cover, right? But I understand because that is so natural to do, when it comes to first impressions. But I would say challenge that when you do come across that, right? To try your best not to judge a book by its cover, even though that's a natural thing to do. I would say second is to, you know, be inspired, be inspired, take your time with reading the poems. You never know what someone's going through. I've even been told that it's like, wow, you always smile. I never knew, you know, you go through that, so much. And I would just say be patient with people. I think that's key in life when you're dealing with other humans. Try to be patient with people and just to apply some of this stuff to your own life. Be open minded. Be open minded to the universe, to the world, and into other people's backgrounds. Like, be very open to it because I think we're so close into our own ethnic cultures that we don't really try to understand other people's perspectives because of their upbringing. I think we just jump straight to conclusions. So I would just say that.
Okay, I like what you just said. I like what you said, and the most important thing you said was don't judge a book by its cover. So, with your blessing, I'd like to go through. People can well. I think this in some ways. By the way, I like the art introducing each. You picked that out yourself?
Yes. So I did this with my first book too, but every every like picture, every art picture, um, that's the cover, I handpicked myself.
I I'm assuming you did.
Yes, had to. I even created the covers this time around, the back cover and the front cover.
Okay,
So
okay. No, I liked and I think that's very important. I'm not. I think it's very important. Especially in poetry because each poem is a unique. It's a world into itself, and so you have a little bit of a visual introduction to it. Uh, it's funny. When I was in fourth grade, I had my first introduction into poetry when I was in fourth grade in Newark. we had to memorize a poem. You had to pick a poem, and I was just I was reciting this poem. You were talking about poetry here. I recited this poem from fourth grade to my wife the other day.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and it's called "The Snowstorm" by John Greenleaf Whittier. And again, I memorized this in fourth grade. So the sun that brief December day rose cheerless over hills of gray, and darkly circled gave at noon a sail light and waning moon. So slow tracing down the thickening sky, its mute and ominous prophecy, a portent seeming less than threat, it sank from sight before it set. A chill no coat, however stout, of homespun stuff could quite shut out a hard, dull bitterness of cold that checked mid-vein the circling race of lifeblood in its sharpened face, the coming of the snowstorm told, etc., etc. So the point is my first introduction into poetry is still stuck in my head. So tying this into what I've read, and I've taken notes, a lot of what I've read and the things you've said becomes part of my memory because some of the stuff you said was so profound and it moved me so much. And again, Elliot, I'm not just saying it. I wrote it down.
Thank you, man. I really
Yeah,
appreciate that so much.
yeah, I wrote it
And
down
that's
and
what helps me keep going too as well.
yeah, and I said it to you before he went on air. You know, my wife who taught for 35 years, tough lady. She's, I had to read your poetry, and she said, Kevin, I really like this. It's powerful and it's real, and it grabs you. So your first uh your and just a couple of notes, and you can comment. You don't have to comment. Um, but why judge a book? And by the way, I think us talking about it like this, hopefully will encourage some people to go and pick up the Kindle version, pick up the hard copy, whatever. Uh, why judge a book by its cover? That's your first. Um, uh, 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 and some of my notes. I like the way you said this a few times in some of your poems. While the earth spins, I
Hmm.
like that. It's a kind of a time. It's kind of a time frame. But you wrote, and of course it's dealing with racism, which is all around us.
Right.
Um, so that was your. By the way, did you do all these like chronologically? This was number one, number two, or you put the
Well, yeah, good question. When I first started writing it, I did not. I was just because I like to not like when I write, I like to just get it out, right?
uh-huh.
To vent. I don't want to feel like I'm strategically trying to do because I feel like then I lose part of the art part. Like
Okay.
that's just how I'm wired. So no, I didn't initially, but of course when it came to like getting a book structured, that's when I started like putting it in order.
Okay. Okay. So there's a there's a there's a method to the order of the way this is. So your second is cherish your soul, and I like how right away you brought up Sade, uh, uh, um, and you talk
My
about
girl.
yep, and making the best of life and nourishing your soul. So I mean, these were my takeaways, from this. You you write uh very you write from your gut and you feel it, but you feel this, uh and I felt you, and again, I'm a fellow writer, so I felt you, and it's powerful emotional stuff. Uh,
Thank you.
um,
Thank you.
and this really resonated with me. Number three, don't suffer. in silence. Um, and you say life ain't fair. Um, it ain't.
Nope.
It ain't.
It
Uh,
never will be.
no. Um, uh, then we could talk about this for about an hour. Uh, in the middle of the poem, you write, in the end, all you have is yourself. Wow.
Yep. It's so true. And like I say, when I write, words like this, I'm actually going off by my experiences, especially up until now. In order for me to keep going, I have to pull myself up from that dark space. So like the saying goes, if you fall, get back up. And there's been plenty of times where I have to, you know, deal with different situations emotionally, go through the motions, and be like, nope, come on, Elliot, pick yourself up. Come on, pick yourself back up. Nope, and that's very difficult to do because you have to pick yourself up out of that dark spot when you're the same person that's dealing with those dark spots, right? So you have to find the strength to face adversity. And it's not an easy thing to do, not even close to it. It's more difficult, than ever. So that's very tough. And I feel like, and that's why in the end, all you have is yourself. Yes, there's strength in numbers, and you can have all the support in the world, right? But if you don't pick yourself up or push yourself in whatever you do, then all the support, everything else you're doing is kind of like pointless. And you have to do it in order to move forward. And I think that's what life's about, is moving forward. Nothing stays the same and nothing lasts forever.
I said it last night. I was talking to a friend. We were talking about the work I'm doing, trying to promote my book and stuff. And I said, I said to him, in the end, I swear I said this last night.
Wow.
Just what you wrote. I said, all I have in this whole process is myself. And so you said the same thing. So that's one of our bonds, Elliot. I mean, I'm 50 years older, and I've realized that you realized that hell of a lot younger. And I tip my hat to you because it took me 50 years to realize what you realize as so much younger. But it's a very powerful. It's one of the most powerful things that I read, and one of the most powerful messages that I'm aware of, that all you have is yourself. It's great stuff.
And
Uh,
another thing, coming to that realization is very hard, right? Like, I think people try to be so delusioned that
right.
that's not the truth. And
Yes.
and that's why that can also take so long. But also,
Yes.
even if you know that, you still try to be like, you try to turn around from that. Like, yo, you have yourself, but no, 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 I don't. It's like, it's that battle, it's that inner battle of trying to, stray away from that, but it's the ultimate truth. And because I've been on my own since 15, 16 years old, I had to come to that realization a little earlier. And even admitting that now, it's still difficult to come to grips with that. Like, wow, that is the truth. It's hard.
Yep. Yep. Powerful stuff. I'm not going to go through everything here. I want readers to um, uh, in confusion. You talk about rage building.
Mhm.
Uh, Dylan Thomas, the Rage, the Dying of the Light, something like that. Powerful stuff. But you also write Keep Smiling. So, there's certain elements, but there's a positivity to your thinking. That's one of
100%.
my takeaways. There's a reality and there's a positivity. In that also for me, I like, the positive approach. I like that. Um, uh, in water, uh, cool water soothes me. And then you wrote, I thought was so beautiful. And I again, I just extracted what I extracted my notes, the things that resonated with me. These are the things, and one of the most beautiful things I think you wrote, and what I read is I want to touch the ocean floor. What does that mean?
Mm. To touch the ocean floor, I feel like, well, it goes back to my dreams and nightmares. And water always been very significant, probably because I'm an Aquarius. I don't know. So it's what's told me that. But, even if you look at like all the scientists or the people that like discovering things, one of the things that's undiscovered is the bottom of the seafloor. And
Oh,
I feel like there's times where I want to, discover that, or where I can just hide away uh, from everything I'm dealing with in life. And I feel like maybe instead of going up, maybe going down towards the ocean floor will bring some type of comfort. But still, it's something I don't really know, but it's what I feel at times, that, hey, maybe, I want to touch the ocean floor just to, you know, get that experience, and maybe it will bring some light to me, or maybe I'm supposed to soak in the darkness. It's still one of those things where it's really not clear, but it's sometimes what I think about.
okay. I love that. I love that. Um, I like what you said, and how, it's funny. Before we went on air, I was looking at some pictures of my grandkids. I have a grandson and a granddaughter, and there was a certain joy that when I see them. And so, in your poem "Holidays," you write about the joy of kids, and that's another little bond between you and I. And I thought that was, you're a young guy. Um, Let me see what else. In nominated. Were you nominated? I don't know this. Were you nominated for a documentary or something?
Yes, yes. So,
I didn't know this.
well, now I'm breaking the ice. So I was nominated for a short documentary um, that I talk about my life. Is 15 minutes on YouTube called "My Life, My Story, My Journey" that I did in 2021, which got I've submitted to Sundance, different places, and I did all of this independently on my own. Hired a videographer and that had experience, and we shot my documentary. Yeah, so one of the places that I submitted to, I got nominated for best documentary, best short documentary, excuse me, and I only made it to the semifinals. So, but it was still amazing because it was globally, and I didn't really believe it until we got on the Zoom call, because mind you, this is a global thing, so you can't be in one space, and to see people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, from all different countries that I never even heard of, and like places that I did hear of, and just to see all these beautiful human beings, and it just made me feel so good to know that this kid from the Bronx, New York City, the concrete jungle, is really, you know, in these categories. Like how? And it really touched my heart. So it just gave me a different perspective on it, and made me realize, like, wow, this is really special and it's really touching people.
Hmm. Two more things to briefly touch upon. And again, I hope this spurs people on to want to explore this. My heart is heavy. You talk about your grandma. Um, And then you said something, you said this, and I thought it was deep also. It ain't easy being me.
So true. So true. The reason why I said that, and it's funny because before I go further, I would say about like 60 to 70% of these poems I wrote while I was at my job because I worked the front desk. And, you know, a lot of things that I really can't express or whatever emotion I'm feeling with, sometimes I gotta like tuck it away just to be professional. And sometimes you grief hits you from different angles. It's very spontaneous out of nowhere. And the reason why I said that is because it's so true. And at that state, I was very emotional, and I could not uh, express that. And the only way I could express it was through writing it down, and that's what I came up with. And I feel like people can relate to that, especially when the holidays approach, where some people are grieving or some people missing a family member, friend, someone close to them that have transitioned into the spiritual world. Um, and it's hard, it's difficult to keep pushing forward when those things hit you on the spot.
Um, the last on the road. Oh, you talked about writing. You talked about going to the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Are you? I don't know if we talked about this. Are you a basketball fan? I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm a huge basketball fan. I'm a huge sports fan.
okay.
Um, I also recently just got my third medal for 2024 because I do a lot of obstacle races too as well. I participate, so I earned my third medal
Wow.
last month in at Fenway Park in the Spartan race. So
Well, that's
yes,
great.
thank you.
That's
But
great.
yeah, I'm a huge basketball fan. I used to play basketball and football, but yeah, that was one of the goals of mine.
Same here. Um, Basketball. I don't know if I had that. I used to have a picture. I'll send it to you. There's a picture of me. Uh, I'll send it to you when I send you that picture I drew. Yeah, I'm a basketball fan. I played basketball. And in 1976, uh, I was playing. I was out in Chicago. I was hanging out in Chicago, and I was playing some ball there. And some people saw me playing, and they were going to arrange a tryout for me with the Chicago Bulls. So I was pretty good. Yeah, I was pretty good. I had scholarships at University of Toledo and Rutgers, Newark, and I had a
Mhm.
shot at playing in Rutgers, New Brunswick. And I played a lot of basketball. But there's a picture of me. I'll send it to you. Jumping ball, and I out jumped the guy by like 2 feet. So I really, yeah. And I listen. I came out of Newark. Week High, and they that was a basketball school. But anyway, and the other part of On the Road, again, you said something so profound. These are, things that I pulled out that to me is very profound. You said health is wealth, and for a young person like yourself, Elliot, to realize that, because I'm at the other end of the age scale, and I certainly know that health is wealth because you look at Jeff Bezos, he's worth 200 and 300 billion dollars, or Elon Musk. They ain't worth nothing if they don't have their health. So
Agree. Strongly
that,
agree.
yep. So that, on the road again, these are what we talked about is for people. uh, we planted, hopefully we planted some seeds here, that people will be encouraged to come around and read this. So, um, are there more poetry books in your head down the road?
Yes, I do plan on you know, uh writing more poetry books because I'm always writing. I even got some poems that I write. I never stop. It's one of those things, yeah, I might have writer's block in between, but I do plan on writing more poetry books in the future, creating more short documentaries or short films, just staying creative. I think ultimately that's what helps keep me balanced from dealing with life, financial issues, or just, chaos, especially in a city like New York. Staying creative. I think that's where my therapy is at, staying creative, exercising. All these things helps me stay grounded. It's the common ground of my, emotions or
Yeah.
whatever I'm dealing with, So I do plan on releasing more
Great.
poetry, but time will tell. And I just hope that, everybody, read this and really just, apply some of this stuff to their life. And I hope it brings a new perspective into their lives.
Well, it did for me. It really did for me. You, my takeaway, one of my takeaways from uh, don't judge a book by its cover. One of my takeaways, I always like to keep showing it,
Mhm.
is the fact that you as a young guy, uh, have taken away and have discovered and uncovered things that a half century older, have realized and uncovered, and we talked about it. All you have is yourself, and health is wealth, and the universe. You talk about the universe a lot. We talk about the universe, and I talk about the universe every day because the universe, pushes me along and stuff. So that's to me, that's one of the beautiful things about your writing and your work, because it's sometimes, if I didn't know any better, I'm saying, well, this person's 50, 60 years old because he's lived a long life and he's pulled out these things. So that's one of the great, for me, revelations. Sounds
Yeah,
like
thank
a
you, man.
biblical thing. One of the great revelations is you're a young guy in New York, in the Bronx, and you're experiencing life and the emotions, and there are things you've pulled out and things you've learned that I've learned, and so that there's a great bonding between you and I and our thinking and the things that we discovered, and to me that's important. And again, that's why I look forward to continue doing our things as we've been doing, because there's great energies that we share.
Yes, 100%, 100%. The synergy, the chemistry, and the understanding and basically like really coming together. I feel like there's no better combination than that coming
Yeah,
together. And someone like yourself, Calvin, like I told you off air, is that like, you ever since the first time, we did this and I met you, I was just like, oh my God, this guy he's different, he's different. And to know that he's at his age and still continuing to do this is also inspiring for me. And I think that's the greatest human act. Nipsey Hussle said this best. It's like the greatest human act is to inspire and to pass on knowledge. And especially when you can bridge that gap between generations, there's nothing better than that, nothing better. Like we were talking about Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, all that money in the world is don't mean nothing if you're not, communicating and also, bridging the gap between people. I think that's very important. That's more important than money, financial status. And when you meet authentic people that has full of love, caring and compassion, no matter what they've been through and no matter, what background they have, I think it's just amazing. And that's why I wanted to come on this platform and share my new,
great,
you know, um, art with you and or your listeners and everyone out there, I think it's important and to continue to do so down the line
correct.
is even more important.
Yep. To be continued. Yes. So,
Yes.
yeah, so this was great stuff. Really for me, I'll say it again, to have been illuminated by reading your words, and pulling out. And I love doing that when I read, whether it's a novel or I don't read a lot of poetry, so you should be honored. Um, I don't think I read a poem since fourth grade,
Thank you.
but it was very illuminating for me to get into your emotion, your feeling, and your takeaways. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. Look forward to doing this more. And it's a great way to end. And of course, I'm wishing you merry and happy and healthy and all good things, Elliot. We'll
Same to you and
Yeah,
yours.
thank you. And we'll get together after the new year and your next project, and we'll sit and we'll rap. I love to rap with a rapper. I don't do this a lot. And I know we said this last time. I was so thrilled because you were the first rapper that I had ever met, really. And we talked about this, your rap music, and I'll have the link to our last interview so people can see that. But I came out of the '60s, so I'm a '60s guy. I listen to Bob Dylan and Peter, Paul, and Mary and stuff, and
Greats. Those are greats right
yeah,
there.
that's great stuff, and I think with every generation, that's your music, and that was my music, and
Mhm.
I'm still stuck with it, and that's what, and it's very hard for me to kind of break away. Although I'm fascinated by Jay-Z, because he came up, one of his albums was 444.
Yes, one of my favorites. I mean,
And I haven't listened to it honestly, but 444 is one of the spiritual numbers in my life that haunts me. And so I was haunted and I was in Florida when he came out with 444 and he started to promote it. So we had a bus with 444 on it and stuff. But anyway, uh, we could rap for a long time. I'm inviting you to come back, Elliot, and wishing you all good things and all good luck. And this is all to be continued. And thank you so much for being here.
thank you. And
Yeah.
everybody,
Yep.
follow me on Ebak to
Yep.
get the printed version, Kindles, ebooks, everywhere. The link will be in my bio too, where you go to my direct website to purchase the printed copies.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
shout out to Calvin and
And
everybody else.
that's my copy from
Thank you.
my uh my copy on my Kindle. So Elliot, thank you. Don't leave. I'm gonna stop recording. We'll do a quick wrap. There's that word wrap again. So again, thank you, Elliot.
Thank you.